Hello everyone. Today what we're going to do is we're going to go over dimensional analysis, but we're going to see something a little different. We're going to convert quantities that involves raising the unit to a power. So if you look here, I have an example for you where they're telling you that a circle has an area of 2,659. Now notice it's centimeters squared, okay? Area is always in square units. So they're asking you to change this to square meters. Now, if you recall, the conversion factor from centimeters to meters, you see in 1 meter, there are 100 centimeters. Now, watch what I'm going to do here. When you set this up, here's the given when you use dimensional analysis, and then you multiply it by a conversion factor, and you want to set it up again so that units cancel. You want to put the centimeter on the bottom because there's a centimeter here. But right now, it's not quite the same. See, this one over here is squared, and this one over here is not. So here's what we got to do. Here's the extra step. If you look at the title, it says, converting quantities that involve units raised to a power. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get the entire conversion factor, and I'm going to square it. So here's the given again. That number doesn't change. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to square the numerator. See, this is 1 times 1 is just 1. A meter times a meter is a meter squared. Now the bottom is 100 times 100 is 10,000. A centimeter times a centimeter is a centimeter squared. So now, notice by squaring the conversion factor, the units are identical and they cancel. So here what you're going to end up doing is, instead of dividing by 100, okay, as you can see here, let me fix that. Instead of dividing by 100, you actually end up dividing by 10,000. And then when you get your answer over here, so let's go ahead and do that, you're going to end up getting 0.2659, and the units left are meters squared. And notice the original problem has 4 significant figures, and so does our answer. So that would be one way to do this problem. Now I'm going to show you another example, okay? And here is the solution map. Before we get to that example, they just used the conversion factor differently. We used the 1 meter is 100 centimeters, but it's the same concept, okay? And here it is set up using dimensional analysis. Here they're squaring the entire unit, and there's the answer that we just got, okay? And of course, you don't put those zeros because you're only showing 4 significant figures. All right, so here we got an automobile engine, has a displacement, okay, of 289.7 inches cubed. Whenever you see cubed, we're talking volume here. They want to change this from cubic inches to cubic centimeters. So here's what we're going to do. We have a conversion over here that lets us go from inch to a centimeter. So I'm going to set this up. You got 289.7. And according to this conversion factor over here, we want to get rid of the word inch. And we know that in 1 inch, there's 2.54 centimeters. The problem is that here it's cubed and here it's not. So here's what we got to do. To fix this situation, we're going to get this conversion factor and we're going to raise it to a power. This time we're going to raise it to a power of 3. Now watch what happens when I cube the entire conversion factor. So on your calculator, if you cube 2.54, which is basically 2.54 times 2.54 times 2.54, you get 16.387064. And when you cube a centimeter, that becomes cubic centimeters. The denominator, 1 times 1 times 1 is 1, and an inch cubed is written like this. Now look, we got these units are identical, so now they will cancel. So you're ready to do the math. When you multiply these two numbers, you end up getting 4747.332441 cubic inches. Now, the original question has 4 significant figures, so I'm going to round to show 4. And when we round that to 4, it's simply 4,747. And then, of course, don't forget your unit, inches cubed. And that would be the answer to this particular problem. Okay? Let's take a look at one more. Here, we are looking at 15,615 cubic decimeters. And they want us to change this to cubic inches. So this one is a multi-step problem. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go from cubic decimeters to cubic centimeters. Okay, I'll show you how to do that now. And then we're going to have to do what we just did in the previous problem using this conversion factor over here. We can go to cubic inches. Okay, now notice the relationship between a decimeter and a centimeter. If you notice, in 1 decimeter, there are 10 centimeters. Centimeters are smaller units. So watch how I set this up. We're going to follow this little plan here. So first, I'm going to write the given. I'm going to put cubic decimeters. And then I'm going to do the following. I'm going to use this conversion factor. In a decimeter, there are 10 centimeters. Okay? Now, what's going to happen is we're going to have to cube this because we need it cubed. Right now, it doesn't match the way it's written. Okay? So, let's go ahead and we'll cube it. So I'll put this on the bottom here. So 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. And a centimeter cubed is a centimeter times a centimeter times a centimeter is just a centimeter cubed. Let me fix that. And then 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. And then decimeter times decimeter times decimeter is a cubic decimeter. And we have cancellation there. But that only takes us to the middle step. Now we want to go to inches cubed. Well, if you notice over here, we want to get rid of this time the word centimeter. So, we know that in 1 inch, there are 2.54 centimeters. Right now, it doesn't cancel. See, when we cube this, the centimeters are cubed. Over here, it's not cubed. It's only to the power of 1. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to cube this conversion factor 2, and we'll write it on the bottom here. When you cube 1 times 1 times 1, that's 1. An inch cubed is an inch cubed. And if you recall, 2.54 times 2.54 times 2.54 is 16.387064. And centimeters, when you cube that, that's centimeters cubed. Okay, let me erase this over here. So now look what happens. Now these cancel. Look what you're left with, which is what we want. So now we do the math. So basically you're going to multiply 15,615 by 1,000. And then you're going to basically just divide by 16.387064. And I'm going to write this in a different color here. Here's the answer that I get. I get 9,52885.5 0.764, and that's inches cubed. Now, let's look at significant figures. The original question had 5. So we're going to show 1. Whoops, I'm sorry about that. There we go. We're going to show 1 over here, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to stop there. Now, notice how this one rounds, okay? This one does not round as easy as you think. Let's put the answer over here where I got some space. This 5 is going to bump that 8 to a 9. So you still got the 9, you got the 5, you got the 2, you got the 8. The other 8 became a 9, and then what you got to do is add a 0 as a placeholder. And of course, it's inches cubed. Now, an alternative answer would be to also put it in scientific notation, and that would be fine. So I'll write this, since I don't have too much room here, I'm going to write it underneath the question. So it'll be 9.5289, that has 5 significant figures, times 10 to the 5th, and of course the unit is inches cubed. So here is the answer in scientific notation or long form. They're both correct. Okay, so that's 952,890. All right, so didn't have much room to do this one. Let's see if the next one's a little easier. Now let me go ahead and show you this example. Here is what they did. So they did this one a little bit more complicated. What I did was I showed you how to go directly from here to here. What they did is they converted decimeters cubed to meters cubed, and then from meters cubed to centimeters cubed. You could do that. That's fine. The reason I was able to skip is because I know that in a decimeter, there are 10 of these centimeters. And then, of course, we had to cube everything. Okay, and then this one, we did the same thing using the 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. So you'll notice they did it in 3 steps. We were able to do it in 2. Either way is fine. And there's the setup right there. They went to meters cubed, centimeters cubed, and then they went to inches cubed. And again, here's the answer in scientific notation. Okay? All right, let's take a look at one other problem here. We got a skill builder. So they want to know how many cubic inches, and you're given 3.25 yards. And we want to convert this to, cubic is always to the 3rd power. So here you want to do a plan, okay? The plan is probably, let's go from yards to feet. I think a lot of people know that conversion factor. There are 3 feet in 1 yard, and then from feet to cubic inches. We can probably do this one in 2 steps. Okay, now what we're going to do is the following. Let's put our given. So we got 3.25 yards. And if you recall, in 1 yard, notice I'm putting it at the bottom because I want to cancel. There's 3 feet. But right now it doesn't match. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to raise this to the 3rd power, and look at the new number. We still got 3.25 cubic yards. Then you got to multiply 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. A foot times a foot times a foot is a foot squared. 1 times 1 times 1 on the bottom, because you got to do it to the top and the bottom. That's 1. And a yard times a yard times a yard is a yard cubed. And that will take care of this. Now that only brings us to the middle. We got to do one more step. So now we need to go from feet to inches. And if you recall, we want to get rid of the word foot. So in 1 foot, there are 12 inches. Okay? Again, right now it wouldn't cancel because on the left here you got feet are cubed and here it's not. So we're going to have to cube this entire conversion factor. So First thing you got to do is 12 times 12 times 12, which is 1,728. And when you cube the inches, it's inches cubed. And then the bottom would be 1 times 1 times 1. And a foot cubed is a foot cubed. And that will allow you to do this. Now, math-wise, you multiply 3.25 times 27. That gives you 87.75. Then multiply it by 1,728. So you're basically multiplying the three numerators. And you're going to get 151,632. And of course, the units are inches cubed. Notice it's the only thing that didn't get canceled. At the bottom is just 1 times 1. So basically, you're dividing by 1, which is just the numerator. But we want to show three significant figures. So how do we show 3? Here's 1, 2, and 3. This 6 will bump that 1 up. So the answer with three significant digits would be 1, keep the 1, keep the 5, bump up the next one to a 2, and then you got to add 3 zeros for the last 3 spots here, okay, as placeholders. And the unit is inches cubed. So this could be one of the answers. And I'll also write this in scientific notation. If you change this to scientific notation, you would move the decimal point between the 1 and the 5, so it become 1.52. That has 3 significant digits. And when you move it over, it's times 10 to the 5th, 5 spots over. And again, it's inches cubed. Never forget your units when you write an answer. So this one has 3 significant figures. Okay, and as you can see, we can check our answer here. Okay, that was covered up. And there's our answer in scientific notation. You got 1.52 times 10 to the 5th inches cubed. Okay, so the only new thing you learned here is that if you're taking area or volume where, you know, something is squared or cubed, you need to get the conversion factor, and so that it matches, you either have to square the conversion factor, like in the first problem we did involving area, or you have to cube the conversion factor, like the last few problems we did that involved volume. All right, so I hope that this lesson helps.